Okay, let's call this meeting the Haysville Planning Commission to order. First item of business is a roll call.
Williams,
Here.
Trube,
Here.
Coleman,
Here.
Asia,
Here.
Wallace, Rinky,
Here.
Blood.
Here. Are you still working on Jimmy or not?
He's not here.
Okay. I guess if he shows up, let us know. Next item of business is the presentation and approval of minutes of October 23rd, 2025.
I move we accept the minutes as sent.
Second. Motion is second to approve is sent. Any corrections?
I didn't see you, but I wasn't here.
Rely on you for that, Deb. Any other discussion?
No.
Question?
Williams,
Yes.
Trube,
Yes, yeah.
Coleman,
Abstain.
Asia,
Aye.
Rinky,
Aye.
Blood.
Aye. No public forum?
Yes, I gave you one speaker card. Did you want to speak now or?
He wanted to speak on that item for,
Okay. So no.
I'll make
public
sure we
forum.
get it for that. Under old business, we have a review of the 2026 capital improvement plan.
Do you guys need a recap of this? Are there any questions for the city manager? Or any questions that Georgie might be able to answer? Or are you good to make a motion tonight?
Make a motion, I think. I'll move to recommend the approval of the 2026 capital improvement plan as presented.
I'll second.
The motion is second to approve as presented. Question?
Williams,
Aye.
Trube,
Aye.
Coleman,
Aye.
Asia,
Aye.
Rinky,
Aye.
Blood.
Aye. Under new business, we have an area of influence review of conditional use to allow vehicle storage generally located at the west side of South Grove within 3/4 mile north of East 79th Street, specifically 7401 and 7415 South Grove.
Yes, thank you. Brad Etherly with MAPD. We are discussing case con 2025-00152 tonight. For this case, the applicant is requesting a conditional use to allow a vehicle storage yard on property zoned RR, rural residential. It's a 4.65 acre property that is located at 7401 and 7415 South Grove Street. It is currently developed with a single-family residence with several agricultural outbuildings. The applicant is requesting the conditional use in order to store operable vehicles on the site for more than 72 hours. So the Unified Zoning Code defines a vehicle storage yard as keeping outside of an enclosed building for more than 72 consecutive hours of one or more motor vehicles, boats, trailers, or unoccupied recreational vehicles. So if the vehicles were inoperable, that would be classified as a wrecking salvage yard, which is not allowed in the RR zoning. Or if the vehicles were parked for less than 72 hours on site, then it would be classified as commercial parking area, which is not allowed in the RR zoning. So vehicle storage yards are also subject to supplementary use regulations that are found in the zoning code, and those are listed in the staff report. If approved, the applicant would need to comply with all of those requirements and regulations. If you take a look at the site plan, it shows that the applicant intends to utilize the back half of the subject site, which is the western half of the site, for the storage yard, where there's currently pasture for farm animals. The site of the vehicle storage yard is currently accessed by a crushed concrete road or driveway. Screening is required for all non-residential uses when they are abutting residential zoning, and this subject site does abut residential zoning on all sides. The zoning code does allow for landscaping to replace solid screening at the front setback or in the street side setback or rear setback. In this case, a dense line of mature trees surrounds the property, and the applicant would need to submit a landscape plan to the planning department to see if the existing vegetation would meet the requirements of landscape code. The character of the area is agricultural. Properties to the north, south, east, and west are all zoned RR. They're all in unincorporated Sedgwick County and are in agricultural use. Property approximately 58 feet northeast of the subject site is zoned RR and developed with a single-family residence. As far as case history, the subject site is not platted, and because the applicant does not intend to build anything, no platting would be required. In 2012, the MAPC did approve a conditional use for a kennel in boarding, breeding, or training. And in 2016, this conditional use was adjusted to increase the number of horses allowed on site from 8 to 14. As far as public services go, it does have access to South Grove Street, which is a gravel county arterial street with open ditches, and the property does use on-site sewage and well water. As far as conformance to plans and policies, the requested zone change, I think, conditional use actually, is in partial conformance with the Community Investments Plan. The future growth concept map identifies the area as part of the rural growth area, and that's why we're here. It's in the city of Haysville's area of influence. The city of Haysville's land use plan map identifies the site as appropriate for residential uses, and even though the requested use is commercial in nature, it will continue to have residential use on the site, and the current and proposed commercial uses on site will not require any additional buildings. And then the site could also be converted to strictly residential uses in the future. As far as land use compatibility goes, one of the guidelines states that industrial and commercial uses located in rural areas should be separate and distinct from lower intensity uses, and should provide appropriate screening and buffering to ensure compatibility among land uses. Again, with the densely lined mature trees that surround the property, we feel that that meets that compatibility guideline. The request is in conformance with the City of Haysville's comprehensive plan. The plan states that impacts generated by various land uses, such as traffic generation, are minimized by the regulation of intensity and the location of a development so that traffic does not congest the street serving a development. The supplementary use regulations, which include the area limit, the vehicle storage yard, and compatibility noise standards, are designed to mitigate the potential detrimental impacts to nearby properties. So staff does recommend that the request be approved, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report, and I can tell you that we have not received any public comment from any of the neighbors. And with that, I can stand for any questions.
The existing conditional uses on that property, those are still being used in that way?
Correct. And you can have multiple conditional uses on
Right,
the
but
property, so yeah.
it is still being used for boarding and training horses
Correct,
at a number between 8 and 14. This is an additional use on top of that?
correct.
Okay. Any questions? Discussion? A motion?
I'll move to recommend the approval of the conditional use to allow vehicle storage yard, subject to staff conditions 1 through 7.
I'll second.
Motion and second to recommend approval. Question?
Williams,
Aye.
True,
Aye.
Coleman,
Aye.
Asia,
Aye.
Rinky,
Aye.
Blood.
Aye.
Next item of business is in another area of influence, conditional use to allow oil and gas drilling generally located on the south side of 63rd Street between Meridian and Seneca. This is south and north of 63rd though, right? 1600 block of West 63rd Street.
Yes, once again, Brad Etherly with MAPD. We are discussing case con 2025-00148. And again, for this case, the applicant is requesting a conditional use to permit oil and gas drilling on a portion of their property. The applicant owns 2 parcels. One is north of West 63rd Street and the other is south of West 63rd Street. And so total, the amount of acreage equals roughly 73 plus acres. The application area is zoned RR, rural residential, and SF 20, single-family residential, which generally permits agricultural activities, larger lot residential uses, and limited set of non-residential uses. However, per the Unified Zoning Code, oil and gas drilling is allowed per conditional use in the RR and SF 20 districts. If you take a look at the site plan, it shows the proposed well to be placed approximately 918 feet south of the front property line, and south of West 63rd Street south, and approximately 213 feet west of the east side property line. The east property line does abut property that is owned by the city of Wichita, and the south property line abuts the MS Mitchell floodway. A tank battery is proposed to be located on the western portion of the property line to the north of West 63rd Street South, as well as a saltwater disposal well and to be located southeast of that tank battery. The UZC requires structures to maintain a minimum 85-foot setback from the center line of the section line roads. Any placement of storage tanks would need to adhere to that. The site plan doesn't show any proposed location of any storage tanks, and so if there are any to be placed on site, staff would need a revised site plan showing those on the property, if it were approved. The zoning code requires solid screening for all uses other than single family or duplex when they're abutting or across the street from residential zoning districts. So in this case, the applicant would be required to screen on all sides with a minimum of a 6 to 8 foot screening fence. However, screening can be installed in the immediate area of the use as opposed to screening the entire 73-acre property. Property to the north is within and owned by the city of Wichita, is zoned SF5 single family and is an agricultural use. Property to the east is partly within and owned by the city of Wichita, zoned SF5 and RR, and is used as a drainage ditch to the floodway. Other property to the east is zoned RR and is developed with a single family dwelling. Property to the south is the floodway. Properties to the west are split between being in the city and unincorporated Sedgwick County and are zoned RR, SF5, and TF3, and are in agricultural use and one single family dwelling. The subject site is unplatted and platting would not be required for the intended use. The site has access to West 63rd Street South. If needed or required, water services would be provided by the city of Wichita and sewer services would be provided on site. As far as plans and policies go, oil and gas drilling is in partial conformance with the community investments plan. The future growth map identifies the area in which the site is located to be appropriate for small city urban growth area, which is why we're here. And after reviewing the comprehensive plan to identify the proposed future land use, it shows that it's appropriate for residential. Although considering the use is typically a temporary land use and the fairly remote area the request is located within, staff feels that the request is appropriate. As far as the South Wichita Haysville area plan, the required rezoning or the requested conditional use is in partial compliance with the plan. It is an older plan, so it may be out of date, but it does show that it is appropriate for low density residential development as well. And again, we feel that the relative remoteness of the area should make the use appropriate. So staff does recommend the approval of the conditional use subject to the conditions listed in the staff report. And again, we've had no public comment on this request. And I can stand for any questions.
Any questions?
I have a question about the fencing, solid fencing.
Sure.
Why would you want solid fencing around a tank that's 15 foot tall or 12 foot tall from a security standpoint and from a gas standpoint? So if you can't see in there and somebody goes in there and messes with those lines and leaks oil all over the ground, but you can see them from the road, I don't know why you'd want to screen it And then there's a bunch of articles that I've read that said if you have solid screening around those tanks, that it can collect in the corners if the wind's correct and cause more of an issue with people walking in.
So the zoning code doesn't specify what uses, except for non-residential uses. So they don't break it up between, you know, if it's a restaurant, it's okay, if it's oil and gas, it just basically says if it's non-residential, abutting residential, it needs to be screened. And it's really for the aesthetics of it. If this body feels like a screening fence is not needed for this particular case, then you can add that as a condition or something like that to not make that a requirement. And then the Board of County Commissioners would take that into consideration.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
You probably said this and I didn't catch it.
Sure.
But how close will the area that he's referring to that might need screening, how close is that to residential?
Sure, so it would actually be pretty far away from any residential use. Of course, it's gonna be surrounded by residential districts, but if you take a look at the site plan, page 7, you can see that the well itself is very far south, almost next to the floodway. The battery and the saltwater, I don't remember what the D stands for, but that those two are on the north side, closer to the western edge of the property. And so really we would just be concerned about screening in that immediate vicinity. You know, so it would be a pretty good distance from the residential property, kind of to the northeast on the south part, but I mean, this is it looks smaller compared to the property to the north, but I think it's almost 900 feet from the front property line, so it's a good distance.
Okay, thank you.
Why is the tank battery and salt water so far from the well location?
That would be a good question for the applicant.
He's
I
up
don't,
next if you guys are
Yeah.
ready to make that.
I don't do this work, so I do this part.
Any other questions for county staff? Okay. Dick Schrimmer. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly.
Say, I'm Dick Schramer. I formed Bear Petroleum 40 years ago here in Haysville, Kansas. We had the same mailbox here for 40 years since 1985. So we're a local company, and I've lived in the area since 1979. I showed up tonight more to be here to answer any questions you might have, such as this. The well that will be drilled is up against the big ditch, just 200 feet north of the big ditch. But the tank battery facility and the disposal well will be 1,300 feet north of 63rd Street approximately. The reason we are doing that is because the well is existing. The well was drilled in 1984. Pipe was cemented from the bottom to the top, 3 different layers of casing. And so we have proposed to re-enter that well and make a disposal well out of that well. So that's why the battery.
The one to the north.
The one to the north.
Yeah, okay.
So that's why they're up there by themselves, because that's where the disposal will be. And it keeps it farther away from the street, out in the middle of farm field. I'm gonna estimate closest house might be 1,300 feet or more to the east, nothing to the west.
Did you have any response to his question about the fencing?
Yeah, we had the same question when we did the well on Broadway, there at 60th and Broadway, before the Metropolitan Planning Commission, and then again in front of the Sedgwick County Commissioners. And the word I used there was silly. I thought it was silly to put a fence in, a 6 or 8 foot fence in, and you've got 12 and 15 foot tall tanks inside the fence. I don't know what you're blocking the view from. I think we're looking for trouble inside those fences. Or at 60th and Broadway, we did the fence, I think you've probably all been by there, I think it's a good looking installation. But just in the trees next to it to the south, we had homeless people just a few months ago. Up at 47th and Broadway, behind the Pizza Hut, there's a well, submersible pump well, that you can't really see it, it pumps below ground. But the tank battery sits back to the south behind the strip mall. And that is plagued with homeless people back there, and it's got a chain link fence locked and surrounded by trees. So that's good cover for them. So we don't need people inside these fences, and we'd like to be able to see if they are inside the fences. Plus is you can always drive by and see what's going on in there, not have to stop and unlock a gate to get in to see what's happening.
Does that cover your question, all right?
Yeah, yeah.
Any other questions for this gentleman? Any other discussion? Is there a motion?
I could, I'll move that we recommend the approval of the conditional use to permit oil and gas drilling at the 1600 block West 63rd Street South, subject to staff conditions 1 through 9, with the exception of the fence thing. I'd like to see a transparent, translucent, see-through fence. Did I say that right?
Well, I guess my question would be, what's the value of a see-through fence?
Well, chain link, something
Okay.
that you can see through.
So still a fence, but not,
Still a fence to keep trouble out, but you should be able to see through it, is
Right.
his point.
I think the issue that will create is it's not screening. So I don't know how that, we can present it to the Board of County Commissioners however you want, but if the purpose of the fence in the first place is screening, and we're taking out the screening of it, then do we need the fence at all, I think is the question.
Purpose of the
Yeah,
fence would be
why do we
security,
need a
not
fence?
screening.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if that's the intent, then great, I just wanna make sure we understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, the intent would be to secure it.
But
but be able to see
inside.
through it.
Okay.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Question?
Williams,
Aye.
True,
Aye.
Coleman,
Aye.
Asia,
Aye.
Ricky,
Aye.
Blood.
Aye.
Thanks, sir.
I have not seen the other exclusions, or what did you call them, ones?
Yeah, they're just conditions.
Conditions, I'm
They're-
sorry.
They're very similar to what was at the other.
Okay.
They're in the staff report, if you want to just take this, they're at the end of the staff report, so.
Let me just glance at them real quick, just in case there's a problem, but if it's the same as what we had in the past, then I'm sure we're fine.
Pretty boilerplate stuff.
Mhm. Okay.
If you want to keep that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, that's all I
Thanks,
have.
Coach.
Thank
Thank
you.
Next item is, review of a text amendment to zoning regulations, change to Article 3, general regulations, and Article 4, zoning districts.
So I've brought back the last part of the general regulations from last month that covers the special use standards and the use chart. The special use standards are some specific regulations for specific uses that used to be listed in the conditions section of our use chart. I've now replaced it with actual text, and you just refer to this text from the use chart. All of these standards were already in the zoning regulations, besides the standards for ATMs, vehicle and equipment sales outdoor, and vehicle storage yards. Are there any questions on the standards?
I've got a couple.
Okay.
So on 404E, special use standards, under 2I, it says containers shall not exceed a height of 8 foot nor occupy a greater than 800 square foot. It's like at the bottom of the page.
Okay.
Page, it's 51. What's considered a container? Is that like a Connex container or just like a trash container? Because you can't get a Connex under 8 foot. Like one of the big storage containers, you can't get them under 8 foot tall.
Okay.
They're 8'6" or 9'6".
I haven't seen a private recycling collection station in Haysville yet.
No,
So I'm not super familiar with what that's referring to. I just know it was already in the zoning regulations.
Oh, okay.
Are the containers you're referring to something a commercial recycling collection station would use? Or do you
No,
think a
this is-
private one would use
This
it
is
too?
private,
Private?
yeah.
We might have to look at that then. So you think the containers can't be that?
Well, I don't know what you classify as a container. If it's like a roll-off container for a trash recycle thing, you know, they wouldn't be over 8 foot high.
Since this was previously in the code, I'm wondering if it used to be like the, this is gonna date me, the telephone ones they used to,
Oh, yeah.
the yellow ones they used to have for recycling that they used to have out there. I think this might go back to that.
Okay, and
So-
so probably the III on the next page where no power-driven equipment shall be used to bale crush is the same thing?
That one I think we should keep in there, cause this is a private one, something you would see like as an accessory used to a different structure. You wouldn't want them to do the crushing at a different location. You'd want them to take the container and move it to the commercial recycling station.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I probably can answer my own questions here, but, so, on the 404E still, there's a whole bunch in here, like 3B, 3F, 4B, 4B, 4C, 4C. Like, one of them says hard or all-weather surface, one says hard surface, one says hard surface. I mean, is there a reason?
That's defined in the code itself.
All other surface can be gravel, that's a good example, or
No.
crushed rock. Hard surface would be asphalt, concrete, something completely solid.
Yeah, so like 3B is construction, sales, and service. It has to be hard or all weather, either one.
Correct.
But 3F, vehicle equipment sales outdoor, has to be hard surface only.
This is a new standard that I was proposing. There's a lot of staff time that goes into monitoring our outdoor sales yards, because they are all weather at this point, and grass and weeds do grow through them quite often. And that is a nuisance and also a zoning violation. So a lot of staff time goes towards enforcing that. And if we require them to do a hard surface, that would eliminate staff regulation.
Okay.
I have a question, will that go back to businesses that have been, operational for a while? Will they be grandfathered?
They'll be considered legal non-conforming uses, so yeah, grandfathered. We wouldn't require them to install a hard surface just because we adopt this, but if they were to redevelop their property and make a significant amount of improvements, I think it's more than 50% of the property value, then we would require them to conform to this hard surface.
But they are, the expectation is for them to keep the, foliage off of that property, even though.
Yeah, it's still a code violation if they don't. Yeah.
Yes.
More?
Yeah,
Yeah, go. That's fine.
sorry.
That's what we're here for.
So like on 4B, the III, all storage, and this is industrial manufacturing, all storage is screened from view of the public right of way. So how are you gonna screen a semi-trailer from the right of way?
This was already in the zoning regulations. I know we've already talked about that, with the oil tanks, they're taller than a fence would be, and a lot of stuff you'd put in an outdoor storage yard might be taller than the fence would be.
Yeah.
But the current code still requires them to have a solid screen.
Yeah, I would argue for outdoor stores like that, something's better than nothing. And I don't wanna require a 20-foot fence either, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's a decent compromise for what it is, and if it's already in the existing code, I don't know that it's worth.
If it says it needs to be screened, and say it's a 12-foot tall thing, Does the whole 12 feet have to be screened, or do we just have to have 6-foot screening and call that good?
The fence code puts limits on how tall your fence can be, depending on your zoning district. Georgie, do you know how tall it can be in industrial?
So industrial can go up to 10 feet.
So 10 foot's the max height a fence
Yeah.
can be.
And so with a violation in the past, they have had to screen higher because of storage behind it. So we could look at the wording for that 4.3B3 and try to figure out a compromise, because this is review, of course. This isn't set in stone yet. But I do understand what you're saying, trying to figure out that middle ground for screening.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you know, if somebody was nitpicking, if you got a 15-foot storage, and you got a 10-foot fence limit, and it says you have to screen it, well, do you have to screen the entire 15, or are you limited to the 10-foot?
You could just park in a semi-trailer, you know, you're
Yeah.
still gonna be over that. And then, the other one I had was on 4C III, it's like one sentence that talks about, screens the yard from the view of adjacent residential and public right-of-way. But on the 4B, II and III, it's two sentences. I didn't know if that just needed to be reworded. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I didn't even realize that it was two sentences in one sentence. They both say the same thing.
Yeah, they both say the same thing. I just thought you want to make a match.
well, actually, C3 probably makes more sense.
To have it in one line
Well, adequately screens, if that's what we're looking for, so.
adequately instead of completely screening.
We probably need to review that a little bit more and
I think you
see
should
what we can.
specify the fence height.
Well,
I think the reason
That-
they didn't, because it's in the other code.
because somebody might be an industrial and only have something that needs a 6-foot fence. They may not need a 10-foot fence, and.
Well, you can specify a max requirement, you know, so not to exceed 10 foot or not to exceed what the fencing limit is. That way it answers the question, if I got a 15-foot thing, I only have to go 10 foot high with the fence.
Well, they can
And,
only.
and I don't have to pick between the two, you can just defer to the fencing.
Well, I think
code.
what she's saying is you don't pick now. The fencing requirement maxes out at 10, that decision is made for you. You can't go to 15 without violating that other requirement. If we want to change that, that's a different thing, but
But when you say something needs to be screened, if it's a 15-foot thing, screening to me means I can't see it. If I can see the top, 5 feet of it, well, I can see it,
yeah.
right? So I'm gonna violate the fencing code, or I'm gonna violate this code. Which one, right? But if this code says to the limit of the fencing code, then you're covered.
I like that wording. Adequately screening to the max height that's allowed in the fence code.
Yeah, we need to look at that a little bit, so.
Yeah, we can reword our screening
That way we're
stuff.
not double dipping.
Does that cover you?
That would cover me, yeah.
Because that is a tough one, where you may be screening your storage, but you may not be able to screen your semi that's parked back there, which that's,
Yeah, where I'm getting hung up is, what if it's 30 foot tall?
Yeah, what if it's?
One, do we allow it? Two, do we have to try to screen it? Because
yeah,
that becomes ridiculous at some point, and.
but that's where the, yeah.
I think, yeah, where it says adequately at the required fence height, if it's 10 feet, then that is the screening that's required, even if it's 30 foot tall.
Agreed.
Okay,
And then just the other thing that you wanted, please review, is the difference between a hard surface and an all-weather surface.
Okay.
I think that's clearly defined in other parts of the code. but-
It is clearly defined, but it doesn't make much. If you look at one thing, like, so a construction sales and service to a vehicle storage
You're
yard.
saying consistency inside this, not
Correct.
necessarily the definition of.
Correct.
Yeah.
The consistency might come into play in the actual zoning district. I know you guys haven't seen the zoning regulations for commercial, you've only seen industrial. But the standards for each district might make it more consistent.
and the use may play a part too, where, I'm gonna use a car sales, it's gonna be on the front road right away, it's gonna be facing that, where the construction, sales, and services most likely gonna be behind or on the side of the building, I guess, so that plays a little bit of part in what you're looking at, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that is one thing to kind of take in consideration with that, but we can look at it more.
Yeah, just with the amount of hard surface that's required for some of it, it makes it unforeseeably doable. For a 2-acre piece of property, there, a 3-acre piece of property that has to be all hard surfaced or water detention pond, if you know what I mean.
You're putting in a Walmart parking lot at that point.
Yeah, I mean, who's got that money?
Any other questions on the standards?
I can't find it now, but I thought there was a reference to striping being required. It was orderly for, I thought it was outside vehicle storage, but maybe it's not.
It's vehicle storage yard, the last one.
Yeah,
4C1, outdoor storage shall occur in an orderly manner with clearly delineated parking stalls.
and that one has hard surface as the only option.
Yes.
I just wanna make sure we weren't trying to make them strike crushed rock or something.
Yeah.
If that's the only occurrence of that, then I think it's fine.
My only other thing on this would be the use type for a microbrewery under MFA isn't allowed by the state. It's only allowed under ag, commercial, or business, not under multifamily.
Oh, that's regulated by state statute?
Yeah.
Do you know which one?
I don't, but I've been told it.
I'll have to look that up.
Good catch.
Yeah, that's a change.
Yeah, cause we've had, yeah, sorry.
I don't remember talking about state statute last year. But yeah, any questions on the use chart or any recommended changes to the use chart from what I've proposed?
You need any motion for anything?
We're still doing review.
Okay. So this will come back. I'm excited about that.
Yes, I think next month we're gonna do the last of our zoning districts, and then January should be everything in one go.
Yay. Okay. Anything else on item D?
No, that's everything.
Under correspondence, we have a memorandum on the golden factors.
You have review of
You have review of
subdivision.
subdivision regulations
Oh,
first.
yeah, sorry, item D, review of subdivision regulations.
So this is our annual review of the subdivision regulations. I read through them yesterday, and found some things that we might want to consider changing or amending. Spring 2026 is our proposed amendment. That'll be a public hearing. Notice will be in the newspaper and online. But always correcting some grammatical errors and making sure the references in the regulations are actually referencing what we want them to reference. Reviewing the exemptions, the definitions, reviewing the approval procedures for final plats for small tracts. That's actually a one-step final plat, we just don't call it that. And actually making that a one-step final plat, because that is the terminology other jurisdictions use, and that's the terminology other developers are familiar with. For streets, we might require some additional street connections to unplatted tracts. This could reduce the strain on just one central collector street in a subdivision, and also maybe reducing the required roadway width to our absolute minimums. They're currently quite wide, and on our collector streets, they provide for off-street parking that is very rarely used. Might consider some pedestrian access easements to introduce our pedestrian infrastructure. This goes along with our bike and pedestrian plan. And then there's two to be determined ones, which are considering the adoption of an access management policy that's consistent with the South Meridian plan that we reviewed last month. And then also maybe considering requiring some traffic calming measures or complete streets in our new subdivisions.
We still don't have, traffic studies are at the discretion of the planning coordinator, is that right?
Yes, I believe so, in the review process.
that been reviewed by other city staff at all?
Has what been reviewed?
The changes that you're talking about?
Not yet.
Okay.
This is just a plan.
Yeah, I was just gonna bounce it off PEC staff and make sure. The collector thing, I think we need to talk about.
Yeah, it's still a little ways off, so, yeah.
And, well, make sure that fire's good with it too. Okay,
Cause this is just a plan,
Yeah, this
right?
is
It's
just a
not-
plan for,
It's not voting on it or anything.
a plan for the spring, for what we hope to address.
any other questions on the subdivision regulations? Okay. Now memorandum on the golden factors.
I thought I'd just include this as a nice refresher from last month. Please read it if you haven't already. At the end, there's a sample motion. This is slightly different from what's usually in your public hearing scripts. And we'll try to put those into the staff reports and give a couple more options for what those sample motions could be if you're approving based on staff recommendation or denying against staff recommendation.
Any questions?
No.
Or general discussion also, I guess. Off agenda, next meeting date?
December 11th.
Item 9.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Dale, we were gonna be here forever. Motion and second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you, everybody.